that we can run your talk as well. So 2 seconds and I'll sort that out.
Brilliant, thank you.
Okay. Okay, you should now be the co-host. So over to you, Nayiri. And again, you've got 20 minutes, including time for questions.
All right, thank you very much. Let me share my screen. Okay, brilliant. So good afternoon to you all. Really happy to be with you today, and thank you to colleagues for your sessions just before mine. It's been really great to listen to you. So for the last session of this segment, I'm going to be talking about the inner development goals and active learning. So what's the link? So just introduce myself and a bit about my background. My name is Nayiri Keshishi, and I work at the University of Surrey, currently in the Social Sciences Foundation programme, which is a mixed discipline programme for students that, if they progress, will then go on to study law, sociology, criminology, and politics. And I'm the lecturer in learning development, so focusing specifically on developing their academic and professional skills. So, you know, we are all aware and know about the UN Sustainable Development Goals. I'm sure that there are various projects that you might have worked on to do with the SDGs. You might have embedded it into your curriculums, had students working on various projects or hackathons and that kind of thing. And we know that what the SDGs have done is provided us with this plan for a sustainable world by 2030. But progress isn't happening quick enough. And right now it seems like we might not reach these goals in time. So what the inner development goals are, again, some of you might have come across these already, you might be aware of them, but I personally wasn't aware of them until a couple of years ago, and they actually only came about a couple of years ago as well, I should point out. But essentially, the Inner Development Goals came about as a non-profit organisation for inner development. So it's a group of researchers, non-governmental organisations, non-profit organisations, but also other types of organisations as well within industry that have researched, collected, and are now communicating a framework of 23 key skills and qualities that can help us live a more purposeful, sustainable, and productive life. But also to help develop these skills and qualities for our future leaders and making sure that we're doing this in a sustainable way. And essentially, the idea of the framework is for it to be a fundamental piece of work to help us reach those sustainable development goals. So in terms of its focus, it's really about supporting organisations, whether this is companies, NGOs and governments, to help them promote these skills and qualities and also develop people at the individual level, but also at the collective level as well. So it's really about accelerating this human growth, coming together, creating this environment of collective learning and achieving some of those systemic changes that we know that we need to work towards the SDGs. However, in my research with regards to the inner development goals, I realised that there wasn't much mention about universities. There was some mention, but not much. So, you know, why aren't we thinking about the inner development goals more at universities? Again, I appreciate they're still quite new. The framework is still very recent and it is a work in progress. But, you know, as universities, as higher education institutions, we have a large role to play in creating future graduates, future leaders that are going to be achieving these systemic changes that we need. So it's really about building this ecosystem that brings together world-leading practitioners and academics on adult learning to help create this dialogue to really scale up both individual and collective inner development. So this is the framework for those of you that might not have seen it before. As I mentioned earlier, it's a list of 23 skills and qualities or capabilities, and they're divided into 5 different categories. So you'll see here that the first category is being. So that's all about one's relationship to themselves. Then you've got thinking, which is cognitive skills, relating, caring for others and the world, collaborating, so that's all about the social skills, things like communication, having an inclusive mindset, and then acting. So these are all the things that we need to enable change. So traits such as courage, creativity, etc. So that's the framework. And I must say at this point, just because of time, I won't be going through all of them in detail, but there is a lot more information on the website. And there are lots of different resources and tools as well on there. But what I've included on the slides is a little bit more information. And apologies, let's get to the next slide. Yes, but I put a bit more information as to what they define, what their definitions are for these 23 skills and capabilities. So, you know, I won't go through all of these, but as you're reading through them, you'll start to think about, okay, how do I incorporate these into my curriculum? Are they reflected in your institutional education strategies, for example? And I'm sure some of these will start to sound familiar. So as I'm going through the slides and showing you each of the 5 sections, what I'd like you to have a think about is, you know, do these sound familiar? How do they play a part in your teaching and learning, whether that's at the strategic level or at the more at the level closer to you? So how do you incorporate these into your programs and into your modules? And I'll share a link to a Google Jamboard in a moment, and I'd like you to just share your ideas on there. So do these sound familiar? How do they play a part in your learning and teaching? So we've got being here. Then moving on to thinking. Then we've got relating. Collaborating. And then finally, acting. So what I'll do now, and I'll stop share so that I can share screen and show you the Google Jamboard. I'll put the link to the Jamboard in the chat. So you should have that now. And what I'd like you to do is just put your thoughts in there. So do these, how do these sound familiar? How do you relate to these? How do you perhaps incorporate activities into your learning and teaching to help your students develop these skills and capabilities? If any of you aren't familiar with Jamboard, what I can do very quickly is just show you how to use it. So here's the Jamboard. You should access this once you click the link. What you can do, I find it easiest to either do a text box. So on that left-hand banner, you can click text box, drag and drop a text box and then type, or you can do a post-it note or a sticky note as it's named here. So you click there and then you can add a sticky note and then click save. If you'd like to share your thoughts, you should be able to see that on the screen as well. So thank you for those of you that have already added. That's great. I'm going to make some of them slightly bigger just so we can see them. Yeah, definitely. These items really all, especially in the thinking categories you've highlighted, they do fit in nicely what we want students to do and develop as skills for sure. And someone else put in there, again, for the thinking category, I can see how this would be helpful for encouraging students to develop metacognitive skills. Yep. Yes, definitely. And that's something that I was going to highlight as well, that there are so many parallels with graduate attributes. So you've already put there how this correlates to some of the graduate attributes at the University of Glasgow. You know, similarly at the University of Surrey, we have what we call graduate pillars. So just same thing, but slightly different terminology. But, you know, a lot of these graduate pillars that we are required to embed into our curriculum, that we want our graduates to have when they graduate from our institutions, you know, there are lots of synergies, lots of parallels with what is in the inner development goals. And I think that's something that's particularly interesting for myself, to see those links. Yep, same at the University of Salford as well. So you've got links to your graduate attributes, relating things we can do with educators, so what we can do and model for our students. Yeah, really important point. So not only should we think about how we can incorporate these into our curriculum, but how can we actually model these things ourselves? So whether that's you know, being more inclusive, being more caring, creating that sense of belonging. I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat as well, but I will go back and have a look at these. And of course, we've got the Q&A to pick up on some things you put in the chat. But thank you for your comments. So what I'll just stop share of the Jamboard, and I will go back to my slides. So thanks again for your contributions to the Jamboard. And you know, we've discussed this already. You know, a lot of these do sound familiar. So we've already discussed how there are synergies with our graduate attributes. We've looked at which parts can be particularly useful within our curriculum, and how we're already doing things within our teaching and learning to help students develop these skills and capabilities. So what can we do? So again, these are just a few ideas. You know, it's by all means not all the ideas, but it's just some things to get us thinking. And again, I'm sure, well, I know that we do a lot of these already. Some of these have already come up in the previous two presentations. But, you know, how are we helping our students develop things like self-awareness and reflection? So, you know, we've got things like small group discussions, journaling, emotional intelligence and resilience. Okay, so we might have role-playing exercises for our students, for example. We might have mindfulness exercises that we incorporate into our learning and teaching. And I'm sure what you can start seeing here is all of these suggestions are active learning. So they're all teaching and learning activities that really engage the students into the learning process, and really kind of get them involved in the learning, no matter what kind of learning or teaching activity it is. So, you know, again, I'll just give you a few moments to have a look at those. And I'm sure that you do lots of these things already within your programs and within your modules. So final thoughts then. You know, we've just had a look at the small number of the activities that we could incorporate within our programs and our modules. So essentially incorporating some of these active learning strategies, it can foster those skills and capabilities that are outlined in the framework, really empowering our students to develop holistically. So not just in terms of their content knowledge, but also their inner development, and be able to thrive in this ever increasingly complex world, and also to work towards those sustainable development goals. And we're doing a lot of this already. So all of these brilliant things that we're talking about today, and all of these things that we're planning for in the future, it's already there. So what I'd like to see in the future is that link being made and being made a bit stronger. So let's talk about the inner development goals alongside all of the great work that's being done with the sustainable development goals. So let's make those connections, let's make that link, and let's tell our students about it as well. So thank you so much for listening. Those are my contact details if any of you would like to connect further. And I think we've got now, oh yeah, good, 5 minutes for any questions, thoughts. I haven't been able to keep an eye on the chat, but thank you so much for all of those comments. I will take a look at them after.
Fantastic, Nayiri. Thanks very much. That's super. And I think you've got
you.
a potential collaborator there as well in Julian, in terms of potentially combining the framework with some of his thinking too. So that sounds great. So,
yeah, amazing.
Yeah, any questions for Nayiri? There's a lot to take on board there. And I think that looks like a really valuable framework we can all look at and think about in relation to our own practice and our students' practice. Any immediate questions or thoughts or reflections? Everybody's thinking.
Yeah, I'm just having a quick look at the chat as well. Will we? Oh, well, we can save this chat, can't we? I can do that now. Actually.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yes.
So we've got quite a detailed comment from Sandra Jane Greer, who's talking about the College Development Network's involvement with the IDGs. Perhaps you'd like to unmute and just tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, thanks. Valerie Jackman is one of my colleagues, and she's been talking about this. She actually went across and participated in a workshop in Sweden, I think probably last year.
Yeah, brilliant.
So this is something that's been, they've been doing a little bit of work about, and I think Valerie was down at a conference presenting about what West Lothian College have been doing about integrating the IDGs. I'm sure within the last couple of months. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the conference. But yeah, I mean, I think we see as I work for the College Development Network as a lead for learning and teaching, and certainly I can see a huge link between this, not just the professional standards and professional competencies, but also things like meta skills, which is a kind of a key thing in terms of the Scottish curriculum just now.
Yeah, that's great, and I can see that you've put a link in the chat as well. So
yes. Apologies. Yes. If the links link with the text. I took the text from an email that Valerie had passed on, so hopefully I've put in her name where she said I, etc. So the first link was relates to. Let me just see. The first link was to do with the video that was to do with the event that we had within our building. We're based at Airdrie Castle. We don't own a castle, we just hire rooms within it. And then there's further information there, a little bit about a video where you can find out about the toolkit launch. So that's about 4 minutes in, and then the final video, I think the one in the middle is to do with the research report that CDN produced recently, which again links back to the IDGs. So lots of possible uses, I think, for them.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. I'll definitely take a look at these and yeah, think about how we can kind of share our ideas and thoughts about it. Like I said in my presentation earlier, it is, the framework was only put together in 2020-21, so it is very new, and lots so you can find information if you're interested in the IDGs. There are various hubs that are being created globally, and there's more information about the website for joining those hubs and keeping connected with people that are interested in the framework.
Fantastic. And it's great to hear and share information across the sectors as well. I think sometimes we have a bit of tunnel vision, but it's good to hear from other sectors too. Julian has a question.
Yeah, sorry. It's really, really interesting. And I think, as Vicky said, there's certainly quite a lot of crosses between what I've been banging on about for the last few years and what you put there. I'm going through your slides and stuff. I'm looking. Maybe I missed it. Did you organise 1 to 5 as a taxonomy, or did you just do it as strands to follow?
Do you mean the 5 sets of skills? Yeah, so that was actually that they are, I think they're based on the themes of the skills and qualities. It's just a way to kind of group them.